Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the KnifeCenter Home Edition. Welcome to KnifeAQ number 67, the series where I answer all your questions, whether they're sharp or dull. This week, amongst some other really cool topics, we're going to be getting into that age-old debate, carbon steel versus stainless steel. So, let's get into it. All right, thanks everyone for sticking around. I know it's been a few weeks since we've had our last KnifeAQ video. We've had SHOT Show stuff going on. Lot of fun, exhausting time there in Vegas, but very, very rewarding. Got to see a lot of cool new stuff. Make sure to check out our SHOT Show playlist down below, of course. But in the meantime, let's get back to our regularly scheduled programming with this FAQ series. Now, if you're unfamiliar with it, if you're new to this channel, if you want a chance to have one of your questions featured in this series, we pull all of these questions from our comments section. So to get a chance to be featured, just leave your question in the comments section below. We'll come through and pick out some good ones for future videos. Let's get into our first one today, which comes from Mike P. Says, I'm interested in the Mora Garberg. I have heard that high carbon steel holds an edge better than stainless and sparks better with ferro rods. Is that true? If so, I was considering getting one with the carbon steel blade and also getting the companion in stainless. I would use that for cooking and light duty cutting and make the Garberg high carbon steel my workhorse knife. All right, cool. There's a couple different things in here to kind of parse through, so let's do that. Mora Garberg, great knife. Carbon steel or a Sandvik 14C28N stainless is available on this particular knife. Both really good choices, both good amount of toughness. They both give you a good amount of toughness, which is going to be good, especially on a Scandi ground edge, which has a thinner edge than, you know, typical on a standard ground knife or a flat ground or hollow ground knife with a secondary edge. The actual edge angle on those is going to be thicker. Great knives for any kind of bushcraft task, wood carving, that sort of thing especially. And that's going to come into play later when we talk about kitchen stuff. But you're asking about whether carbon steel is going to hold an edge better than stainless. You can't really say either one is true anymore because of all the high performance carbon steels and high performance stainless steels out there. But when you boil it down to the simpler side of things, the steel on this is roughly 1095. They use a different spec, a name for it over there in Europe or in Scandinavia, but it's the same kind of stuff. When you boil it down to simple carbons versus simple stainlesses, a simple stainless should hold an edge a little bit longer, and that's because of the carbides that come in those stainless steels. They're harder than the surrounding matrix of steel typically, and your edge is going to last a little bit longer. But carbon steel is typically going to be tougher, so there's that trade-off. So within the range of knives that you're talking about, the carbon steel won't necessarily hold an edge longer, but you'll be able to sharpen it easier. That's the flip side. Sparking better with a ferro rod. You have to remember when you're getting into this, there's a distinction between a ferro rod, or the full name, the ferrocerium rod, sometimes called a fire steel. That is a synthetic material, and I've got one, right here. This is the SOG Flint. It actually has a glass breaker and a whistle on it, so it's a really cool survival tool. And it comes with that man-made material right there. And it doesn't need to be carbon steel to spark better on this. In fact, it doesn't even need to be steel. All you need to spark a fire steel like this is a hard, crisp edge. You could even, I've seen people do it with a shard of glass. Don't recommend that. You could really cut yourself very easily. But as long as you've got a sharp, hard material, and when I say sharp, it doesn't have to be like a sharpened edge. A 90-degree spine on a knife will work for that. Natural flint, as in flint and steel, which this SOG Flint is not, is a different story. If you're looking to spark natural flint, you're not going to get the shower of sparks you get with a fire steel, but you also are going to need to be using a carbon steel. Most stainless steels, I don't think any stainless steels I know of will do it. And typically, not all carbon steels will either. You need to stick to simpler steels, nothing heavily alloyed, like the 10 series stuff. 1075, 1095 will work. So that carbon steel Garberg will work just fine in that respect. You can also use stuff like 01, that should work. I've even seen someone do it with A2, but it's a little harder with that. So that's the first part of your question. If you're using a fire steel, don't worry about carbon or stainless. I still think the carbon steel Garberg is a great choice for your heavier duty workhorse knife in this scenario. But I kind of I'm questioning pairing it with a companion in stainless for lighter duty cutting and food prep, simply because, as I stated, the Scandi ground edge on these knives is not the best for food prep. Yes, you can make it work, and if you're going to do it, the thinner the blade, the better, and the companions, as long as you don't go with the heavy duty, has a thin enough blade, you can make it work. But I feel like you'd be better served in this case buying something more, even more suited towards, being a companion to that Garberg fixed blade. And I'd actually recommend a folder in this case. I mean, yeah, you could go with something like a, an inexpensive paring knife, like from Duecini or Victorinox or something like that. And there's some little slip sheaths you can get for those. It's going to be far better and far more satisfying to use at food prep. Light duty cutting, it's going to work fine. But I'd probably say go with a folder. And we did a food prep EDC knife video in the past where we showed a lot of cool folders that'll do this job. I'll point you there. Obviously, here you're talking about some less expensive stuff, so something like the CRKT Overland would be a pretty good choice. They come in, what are they priced at nowadays? Like $44 or thereabouts. And you've got a nice food preppy style folder that's also going to do your other general purpose cutting. The other one, and actually the one that that just feels right to me right now as well, is something like the Revo Ness. I think this would be a very good choice to pair up with that Mora Garberg, because you're covering way more ground with these two different styles of blades than you are with the same two styles of blades essentially with a companion. The Ness here is obviously a Nessmuk inspired flipper. You've got D2 steel, broad flat grind on the blade shape. It's going to be a great slicer. It's going to slice in a way that the Moras just don't, which can be quite nice. It's going to work well for your food prep stuff. Going to be a better option if you're doing any kind of hunting stuff, that sort of thing. Just be careful. This knife does have ball bearings in the pivot, so you're going to have to make sure to be able to keep those clean. These are like $66, so it's definitely more expensive than the roughly $15 that the companion is going to cost you. But in the end, I think this is going to be a much more suited companion to the Garberg. Like I said, it's going to offer you just kind of a much broader range of cutting styles, cutting abilities, and things that experiences you can pull off with those two knives. Hope that helps. It took I talked about that a little longer than I thought I would, but hopefully you found it helpful. Next question. Happy KT asks, when you showed the new Wii Elementum in the previous video, you showed it next to the standard Civivi Elementum. What color is that regular Elementum in this video? The handle looks like a hunter green color in G10, which doesn't exist. Are they custom handles? Custom handles, no. Customized, yes. These handles started out as gray, which, gray G10. It's fine. It's very unobtrusive, but I wanted to spice it up a little bit. $50 knife, thought why not go for it? And the thing enabled to do something like that, Rit Dye synthetic is what you want. Really cool stuff. It'll dye things like micarta, G10, even synthetic, like injection molded stuff. I've dyed some of those things. And the color that I put on that, let's see if I can get this to focus, peacock green. Turned out pretty cool. And we'll try to get some better lit versions of this. Obviously, whatever color you use as the base of for your dye project is going to impact the final color, and you're not going to be able to dye things like black because you can't put color onto black. It has to be a lighter color in general. But it's actually really simple to do. Take the scales off, take the knife apart, of course, clean them, bring the solution of the Rit Dye, and you have to use the synthetic stuff. Just the standard Rit Dye won't work, so the Rit Dye Mora is what you need. I dilute this like 7 parts water to 1 part dye, heat it up to boiling, dip the scales. I use just a cut up coat hanger to dip the scales in. Less than a minute. I can't remember the final time, but it took less than a minute to get to this particular color. And the more you dip it, the more color it's going to take. So you just have fun with it. When you're done, take it out, rinse them off, clean them again, dry them. You're good to go. I've even saved the solution that was left in an old mason jar to kind of reuse it in the future. And I've done that a couple times. So you don't even have to pitch it right away. You can hang on to it. So it's pretty cool. And the reason I wanted to bring this into a video, because several people have asked that question when I've used this knife as a prop over the years. Years? Yeah, I guess so. It's been around a while at this point. So now you guys know. Next question comes from Krykorg. Kinda tired of the Civivi symbol on the pivot, and I don't even own one. Personal private thoughts? I guess these thoughts aren't going to be private since this is going public. You're talking, of course, about that pivot right there on those Civivi knives. It has the Civivi logo on it. I actually think this was a really elegant way for them to incorporate their logo into a knife for a couple reasons. One, it allows them to, well, I mean, not even one. It allows them to simplify production, really, because you've got the logo in the pivot that's right there integrated into the part. You now don't have to laser engrave the logo on the blade. It just simplifies the production process. It's one less thing they have to do. It's one less thing they have to charge for, because any step that you take in building a knife costs some money. So they've eliminated that cost. And as a result, you've also got a very clean blade. A lot of folks really like that sterile look nowadays. They don't like big logos on the blade. Really elegant solution for getting the logo on a knife. And they do this with their We knife brand too. You've got the We symbol in the pivot. You get the knife, or you get the logo on there, and yet you get to have a nice artistic rendition of the blade. You don't have to clutter it up, and you save a little bit of money. Both them in the manufacturing process, and you guys out here when you wind up purchasing one of these things. It's how they are able to maintain a bit of their price advantage on those guys. So I can understand if you don't like the aesthetics, but I think it was a really clever thing that they did. Credit where credit's due. All right. Joe Blarone asks, hi DCA, I tag and release sharks. Your life is much more exciting than mine, wow. And I'm looking for a folder that can stand up to saltwater use. Here's the catch. I'm looking for a better steel than H1 or LC200N. Spyderco's Salt series is what you're referencing there, which is made exactly for people like you. But we'll get to that. He says you're not looking for those steels. You're looking for a full 4-finger grip, and if possible, something that comes with a nice point for piercing. Also need it to be sturdy enough to cut heavy monofilament 300-pound fishing line. What says you? I says Spyderco still has the perfect solution for you, quite honestly. The Native 5 Salt is transitioning to Magnacut steel, and it's not out yet, but if you place a pre-order on our site right now, you're going to be getting the Magnacut. About $143 for this USA-made model, and we're expecting them to ship within the next couple of months. That can, of course, change. Things are always in flux, but that's what we've been kind of led to believe at this point. Again, given things don't change. Really cool knife. You've got plenty of grip on it, full 4 fingers, and according to Eric over there at Spyderco, we talked about this specifically with him during our SHOT Show, or after our SHOT Show coverage. It might have been in the video, it might have been a conversation after, but he says that the Magnacut stainless qualities is right up there with the LC200N, but you're gonna still have a great amount of toughness and more edge retention than the LC200N. pretty astonishing. And the cool thing about the Salt series is it's not just the blade steel itself that is designed to be very stain resistant or corrosion resistant, rust resistant. Everything on the rest of the knife is too. All the pins, all the screws, the internal parts, everything is designed to not rust in harsh salinity environments like you're going to be experiencing. So I definitely stick with the Salt series. Right now, the Magnacut Native 5 Salt is the way to go. And like I said, they can be pre-ordered right now. Definitely what you need. And you can get it in a plain edge or a full serrated edge if that helps with some of the monofilament stuff. You've still got that acute point. I think it'll be really useful for you. All right, now we come to the lightning round. Zahir B. Hi DCA, thanks for the excellent coverage of SHOT Show. Thank you, sir. I would love to know how you store your knives and EDC. Do you use a tool chest, knife rolls, or have you MacGyvered a better solution? Keep up the great work. Thanks, Zahir. I used to kind of have things in some various places. I had some box systems that I had going, but nowadays it's a rolling metal tool chest. I got it from Harbor Freight. It doesn't have to be like a snap-on or anything like that, because this is just, it's actually right in front of me, right here. It's in my office. It's not in a heavy-duty environment. It's still built exceptionally well, and I'm not worried at all. I've actually got the top drawer cleared so I can have the microphone right here. I've got my laptop right here with the questions. I've got the knives laid out in front of me. And then all the other drawers are full of blades, which is pretty awesome. And it locks shut too, which is also really important, especially now that I have a little kid running around. Not running around yet, but you get the picture. They're not cheap. Even the Harbor Freight ones aren't like, they're not super expensive, but they're not super cheap either. But it's definitely worth the investment. I mean, just one drawer, any one drawer, if you open up right here, there's more money in the knives in that one drawer than the entire unit storage unit costs. So it works for me. You can go with other like wood tool chests if you want. I know people that use toolboxes or just several knife rolls in a box. Find out what works for you, but I definitely think if you can swing it, the investment of a tool chest is really awesome. Definitely changed the game for me. Next up, Decot C. Are Nessmuks only fixed blades? If there are any Nessmuk folders, are there any you'd recommend? Yes, there are. Most Nessmuks tend to be fixed blades. It's a little harder or a little trickier to get a Nessmuk to work as a folder, and they're just generally not as kind of popular as other styles out there. But that Revo Ness is a really cool option. There's a few others. Fox, I think, makes a smaller Nessmuk folder, but choices are few and far between if you're looking for a Nessmuk folder. Talked about that Ness earlier in the video. Definitely check those guys out. Next up, Informed Citizen. Why doesn't Chris Reeve incorporate a hardened steel lock face insert in any of their knives? I've never owned any of his knives, but I would think over time they'd develop lock rock since the titanium frame is much softer than the blade steel. Given the price of a Sebenza, I would think it warrants an upgrade. The thing though is they're already doing something different that is more advanced and more elegant than the rest of the industry that's using a steel lock face. If you're dealing with the old Sebenza 21s, the lock bar itself actually has a carbonized lock face. It's hard, they've embedded carbon into the surface, so it's harder than the titanium. So you don't have to worry about the titanium being softer because it's not actually touching the softer steel. And then starting with the Inkosi, which remember was initially called the Sebenza 25, and now rolled into the Sebenza 31, they're using a ceramic ball that acts as both the detent and the lock bar interface. So the actual lockup is between the tang and the lock bar is taking place on that ceramic ball. And people were initially maybe a little skeptical of this, but in the Inkosis that they've warrantied over the years, that have come in for spa treatments, I should say, have been even more stable than the carbonized lock faces of the 21. So that's why they rolled it into the 31 and other models in their range. And the reason that's just more elegant is it's fewer parts than anyone else has to do, and you're getting the same, if not a more desirable result. So they don't have a steel lock face because they've already surpassed it, shall we say. There we go. And now the last question of the day, which is our most serious question of the day. If Sylvester Stallone, Arnold, and Paul Crocodile Dundee Hogan were all showing off their knives of movie fame, What would you bring to the party to impress? Didn't fit in the top drawer. Had to come down here. Would have to be the TM Hunt M18. I mean, if we're talking about Crocodile Dundee, like, that's a knife, guys. And we just got a really cool new batch of these in stock at the KnifeCenter. So make sure to check them out. They don't come around too often. They're always highly sought after. Yeah, man. That's a knife that impresses. I don't even know where to put it, so I'll put it here behind me. That's all we've got time for today. If you want to see how that M18 is used, actually, we did a full review of that knife previously, showing off all the different ways to use that unique blade shape. Check that out. If you want to get your hands on any of these knives, we will leave links in the description to take you over to KnifeCenter.com. And leave your questions in that comments section below so we can pull things out for future episodes. Thank you everyone, of course, for your submissions already. While you're over there at the KnifeCenter, make sure you sign up for our Knife Rewards program so that if you're going to buy one of these knives today, you'll earn some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the KnifeCenter signing off. See you next time.